Welcome to The Blue Dot, Northern Kentucky's premier political podcast, brought to you by the Kenton County Democratic Executive Committee.
I was raised that leadership it's a responsibility. It's an action. It's a verb. It's not a career choice. It's not a resume skill that you're putting together to get hired on the job. And so I hold people in positions of leadership to a very high standard.
Welcome back to the Blue Dot Podcast, where we spotlight the people, policies, and conversations shaping Kentucky's future. This week, we sit down with Josh Baker, State Senate candidate running for District 24. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Natalie MacDonald.
And I'm Brian Koehl. Joshua Baker is a Kentucky native and community advocate running to represent Kentucky's 24th Senate District. Raised with the belief that leadership is a responsibility rather than a privilege, Baker launched his campaign to give working families and everyday Kentuckians a stronger voice in state government.
That's right. Josh's campaign focuses on accountable government, transparent leadership, and building a stronger future for Kentucky's next generation. As a Democratic candidate, Josh says his goal is to ensure every Kentuckian has the opportunity to thrive while promoting responsible, transparent, and community-focused leadership. Josh, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, guys. I couldn't be more excited to be here and be doing this today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Josh. Hey, so tell us a little bit more about yourself, why you decided to run for Kentucky State Senate, and was there a key moment or issue that made you decide to throw your hat into the ring?
Well, to start with me, I've grown up in Northern Kentucky, graduated from Campbell County, all the way back in 2010. I know, a long time ago. But I'm also a veteran, and I've spent most of my working career in and around the service industry, finding my particular niche in the hotel industry. I spent quite a few years either being a general manager or eventually running some maintenance departments. And my working career is a good part of the reason why I am going into this. A common thread that I have found throughout all of the places I worked is I really didn't meet an hourly worker that felt represented by the state legislature, whether it was myself or anyone I was working with, servers, bartenders, warehouse workers, cab drivers. None of us feel represented by the folks down in Frankfort right now.
Yeah, you talked about that, not feeling represented as a worker. Can you drill down into that a little bit more and some of your experiences and, how are you then making that a focus of your campaign today?
Well, my experiences in the workplace, I think it's hard to really kind of go through and describe them unless you've worked for the conditions. These are industries that union representation is few and far between. So, I was that guy that spent a decade without having healthcare just because none of the jobs, would provide healthcare that would be worth keeping at the rate you were getting paid. Retirement funds are non-existent, and it's difficult nowadays to really be in the workforce in any kind of industry that isn't already unionized, that doesn't already have access to higher education. So, we the people, we're tired of not being represented.
First of all, I didn't know you were a veteran, so thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I don't know how I missed that somewhere along the line, but I did. So, secondly,
I did spend a whole lot of time. I unfortunately got a pretty nasty back injury pretty early on. So that's my biggest souvenir is a bad back, and just had to figure out how to work full time and make a living with what I had in front of me.
Yeah, and I'm with you on the food service. I did food service from the time I was 15 until all through college, all through graduate school. And what's kind of sad about it is I think the tipped minimum wage is the same today as it was then. And I'm talking 1993. So we could talk about things like, no tax on tips and all this kind of stuff, but that's a little tiny slice.
It's performative. It's performative economics. Sorry to cut you off.
No, yeah, please do. Yeah.
But yeah, it's performative economics. They're trying to say, look, we're for you. When I don't know about y'all, but I think universal access to healthcare would take a lot of stress off of employers and small businesses not having to provide it. A lot of people could go and start a business because they don't have to have expensive market rate insurance. but we don't want to talk about that. They tell us we can't afford that. They'll short, was it 300 million that they did on Medicaid. But then Governor Beshear reached in and found that money to fund it. So guess what? The money's there. You're lying to us by saying it's not there.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about those platform issues that you're focused on. Obviously, healthcare is one of them, but what are some of the top priorities that you'd focus on day one when you get into Frankfurt?
So along with healthcare, it's going to be, we need to fully fund our education system. Like not just fully fund the classrooms and the transportation systems, but when I say fully fund our education system, I mean pay the teachers so that all they have to do is teach. Someone with a master's degree that takes care of our children should not have to go and work a second job on the summertime because the system doesn't want to pay them enough. To me, it all comes down to priorities. Kentucky gives, I don't even know how many hundreds of millions in tax breaks every year, but they're telling us they can't afford to fund our education or our healthcare. Those are kind of the two big priorities. I get really emotional over those. I also love the ecology that is Northern Kentucky. Like I said, I grew up in this area. I grew up running around the woods and the parks. And, I love the deer and the birds and the wildlife and our watersheds. And I really genuinely want to protect what we have. Kentucky not only has abundant natural resources, but we're just lucky to live in a beautiful state. People come by and vacation here and take photos of our backyard because of where we're at. And that's something that should be cherished and protected at every turn we can.
I totally agree with that. The, and environmental issues, especially. Well, let's go through the list. Public education, healthcare, and the environment are all under assault right now by the Republican government that we have in place, not only in the Kentucky supermajority, but nationally, all three branches of government. So drilling in a little bit more on the environmental piece of it. So what do you see around you specifically and in the state do you think are some of our greatest risks, and where would you like to focus?
So as far as what we can do locally, I think that Kentucky does have a pretty strong tradition of trying to take care of our environment. We have a wonderful fish and wildlife department. At the state level, we are lucky enough to have a ton of really good farmers within easy driving distance of where I live. So from my point of view, I believe that we already have expertise out in the field. We just need to once again prioritize funding them, listening to the experts, working with the young college kids that are passionate about the environment. So I would really like to see the state government really be proactive in working with the folks that are already in the state versus funding another committee or research program or something like that.
Yeah, and if I look out my window right now, I can see Dome Run Lake and the Bank Lake watershed. So I don't know if you've ever spent any time over in this part, but I was thinking about the environmental impact of data centers today, and we have to realize they're not going anywhere. So I think it's going to be really important in this next election for people to demand answers from their representatives of how are you going to balance this environmental piece of it and still be able to promote growth. One of the things that I'm worried about is that people are just going to be a rubber stamp for what the Trump administration is already saying. He's out there saying, yes, let's be pro data centers, and I'm already going to get rid of all of these environmental restrictions to make it easy for them. So I think it's going to be super important for people at our level in your district to be able to hear answers from you. How are you going to balance that?
Well, we always do have to, as you guys said, we always do have to balance the protections for the community, protections for local environments with whatever economic development. For example, we saw in the coal industry what happens when one company controls all of the resources. We get company towns and strikes. So we already have an established history of trying to deal with that exploitation. So being down in Frankfurt with the state government, I feel like it has a very unique role to kind of be the between what the federal funding wants to put together and then what the local actually needs to be effective, to be good for us. So I see that the role of the state legislature is to know exactly what their local community knows. We have a wonderful network of local governments that are fairly easy to get a hold of and transparent. I have a city council meeting I'm attending tonight, Cold Springs, and with all the other ones, you can walk into the city governments, sit down, and have a conversation with them. That's not as easy in Frankfurt. So I think that the role of the state legislature, it is part of my responsibility to communicate not only what is going on, but to understand from the community what is best for them. Because only the community is going to know what's best for the community. Someone in Frankfurt 100 miles away isn't going to know. People in DC sure as heck aren't going to know. So as the state, as a representative, I also have quite a few House districts that overlap. So I'd be working very closely with those House districts. And they're also able to, once again, really focus in on the community. So I do believe that there is an existing network that can be utilized to be able to transparently govern by the will of the people. And again, just like it is with healthcare and education, it's a matter of priorities, and it's a matter of our leadership genuinely leading versus politician as a career path.
Yeah, you're talking about meeting your local constituents and making sure that you understood their needs and then communicated those up into the state house and tried to actuate some of that. And your District 24, is large, and it touches Bracken, Pendleton, Campbell, and Kenton counties. So you have what is Covington, the second or third largest city in Kentucky. So you have the urban area and that urban sprawl up north a little bit, and then you get down south into, some of the Kentucky hinterland and the rural areas, and you're going to have all those constituents with their various needs. So yeah, it sounds like communication and a lot of getting out to see the people is going to be required in order to really understand the broad spectrum of those needs.
Yeah, and I think one of my favorite things about representing specifically this district is because of what you said. It is a slice of the whole of Kentucky life, from the densely packed urban areas of Covington and Newport all the way down to the beautiful rural areas of Southern Campbell, Pendleton, and Bracken. And because I have to represent people from quite literally all walks of life, I'm not able to go one direction or another. I think a lot of times when you have hyper-specific localities, what works, what is a solution for Covington and Newport just is not going to work down in Bracken County. So you have to be able to understand the needs of your constituency. You have to have the time to be able to sit down and understand all of the different needs of the different communities, and then work with the local governments to enact those solutions that's best for the constituents.
And I hear you talk a lot about talking to the constituents. I see you're everywhere. You're at all the events. You're out there talking to people, listening. I think it's so important. And another thing is, I've heard you say, I think 3 or 4 times in this brief conversation thus far, you've said the word transparency. And on your website, you have a quote that says, "Power should be held in a glass cage, contained and transparent." So this is top of mind for a lot of people right now, especially at this local level, because I think a lot of people are grappling with the fact and of understanding that we don't have transparency in our government, not even in our local government. So is there anything specifically besides getting out there, talking to people that you think you can do to bring back that trust and transparency to people, especially once you're in office?
Well, I was raised that leadership it's a responsibility. It's an action. It's a verb. It's not a career choice. It's not a resume skill that you're putting together to get hired on a job. And so I hold people in positions of leadership to a very high standard. It should be my responsibility to be out there and know the community, because I'm running for public office. I'm running to advocate for the public. Our campaign is as transparent as can be. We are, everything. You can look up all of our finances. We're 100% volunteer powered. Transparency should be the bare minimum, honestly, that we expect from our local government. Or any of our governments. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be something that we can use as a campaign slogan. Transparency should be the bare minimum that we expect from our elected office, because it's an elected office. It's a public position.
Yeah, that transparency, circling back around a little bit on the data centers and some of the economic development, the SRI and things that we've discussed many times on the podcast, that lack of transparency, economic development that is all of a sudden happening, and many of the people directly involved, or it's happening right in their backyard, don't know anything about it, didn't get a chance to weigh in on it, don't really understand the full impact.
Yeah.
And, when you're talking about your natural resources and you're talking about the farming and the rural communities butted up against data centers and a lot of other economic development, there's all kinds of logistical development that's happening with distribution centers. That could be an uphill battle for you. Are you seeing things around you right now in terms of those economic forces that you feel you would have some pretty rapid approaches or quick solutions to how to maybe get everybody on the same page and make sure you could bring that transparency to some of this?
Yeah. For, I guess the first and easiest answer is being around all of the candidates that are running this year. I have been kind of blown away with the local folks in Campbell and Kenton that do genuinely like this batch of candidates. Now I don't know what's going on over on the Republican side, but I can say this batch of candidates. So I'm really encouraged. I'm really encouraged by people around my age. It's most of the people running right now are fall in the millennial category. So I'm very encouraged by that. And then I think that there's starting to be more of an appetite for working with and understanding what's going on in our government. Kentuckians are catching up. Like our legislature, yeah, they tried to sneak some stuff in. House Bill 775 gets a nice 50-year tax break to sales and use for data center development. I wonder why they want to come build here. And it doesn't help the local community. So we're seeing a lot of quick action, a lot of special interest that paid a lot of really good money to make sure that these laws got passed this last session by our Republican supermajority. But I think Kentucky's had enough. I think America's had enough, but I think especially Kentucky has had enough. You look at the way our U.S. House primary got bought by outside people. The $25+ million is going on. Why? This is Northern Kentucky. Why are they dumping 20? You know what we could do with 25 million in our community? And I think that was a big wake up call. And I'm really, really encouraged by the reactions of our community, the way that Kentuckians seem like they're stepping up. And I have a ton of hope. I genuinely believe Kentucky's best days are ahead of us. I think that we have an incredibly bright future. I think with a small population of just 4.5 million people, we can conversate, figure out a consensus, and get shit done.
Absolutely. That's why we got to flip these seats. And I'm telling you, I agree with you in that I think things are starting to hit at home locally. Right? People are seeing this land issue. Things are happening in their own backyard. They're losing health care. And maybe all that was out there a little bit on the surface, but now it's there. It's really granular and people are feeling it. And this kind of Epstein Trump class of the uber rich just making out like crazy. Well, we can't buy groceries, So I think if people like you and all these people out there are stepping up, that's why we're seeing this. And you mentioned Shelley Funky Fromeyer. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned her briefly, but I guess what sets you apart from her in all of this?
Well, I mean, I could take two different routes with it. One, we can just look at the action she's taken and the vote she's done without anything she said, just her actions. And I can go through the list and say, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that.
Right.
But to kind of sum it up, the campaign's taken to calling it the 3 C's, but my compassion, my conviction, and my love of the community. I am just a genuine person that cares for the folks in my life. I mean, you ask any of my family or friends, thankfully, they're all supporting me. I don't think I would be doing this if I didn't have support at home. I couldn't be doing this without support from home.
But you spoke about some of those bills. What are just a couple of those bills that maybe she voted for that really contributed to this supermajority takeover and harm that's being done to Kentuckians?
Let's just go with this last session. We don't have to dig back all the way to the beginning. Her freshman year as a senator, I'm sure I'll do some crazy things as well. But just this past year, her support of the budget bill that went through, where they just straight up looked at us in the eye and said, "Oh, we can't afford this stuff," when they're talking about our healthcare and our education. House Bill 775 that added in the brand new 50-year sales and use tax break for data centers. She was part of the legislation that has reduced the amount of warnings we need to have on pesticides. She has introduced and supported legislation that goes after civil rights, whether it's for the LGBTQ plus community or whether it's trying to stick the government's nose in the woman's doctor's office. None of that's going to gel with me. Like, that's just, I don't think that that's the role of the government. I think we should stay out of the bedroom and the boardroom, and we should really stick to what the community can do to make things better for the average person.
Yeah. Amen on that.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned, I think on our podcast just last week, we're talking about basically the Republican candidates. Some of them, it's like having an anvil tied around your neck right now where the GOP is, I mean, and even I think that some of them probably don't buy some of the policy and some of the rhetoric that's coming down from the national level and is filtered out through the states and all the state legislatures. But they have to play that game and they have to speak the party line. And it puts them at a disadvantage. And then you put on top of that what their own personal policy beliefs are and what they enact. And I think we just have some rather toxic, government officials out there right now. And I believe that's leading to this pushback. We've been apathetic for a while. And as Natalie just mentioned, all this has come home to roost. And now we're being directly affected by these policies, and our apathy maybe led to that. And that's why communities are speaking up and people are showing up at city council. And we have a nice, great bunch of younger candidates who are getting involved because they see that it's their time, right? You got to take the power and use it.
And just, for example, look at the Maha movement, which, of course, Shelley is a big proponent of. Food is medicine. But the Maha movement is all about the distrust of expertise. It is,
absolutely.
And we're now seeing the consequences, whether we want to talk about the measles outbreak happening across the country, I'm not going to butcher the pronunciation, but the diarrhea on the lettuce that we're dealing with right now. Like, that's just, we've seen what happens when we reduce the safety regulations that anyone in the construction industry would tell you safety is written in blood. You are not given a safety regulation for the fun of it. Those cost money. They take more time. They make your job more difficult. If there's a reason the experts are telling you to do something, I promise you there's a good reason for it. And I like to sit down and listen to experts nerd out, whether it's going to be, someone from the Fish and Wildlife, whether it's a farmer with 30 years experience, retired teacher, nurses, which Nisia, she's been a fantastic opponent research. And she's really helped me getting my talking points together about the Maha movement. So I want to give her a quick plug. But yeah, and that's what I think if you have ever sat down and talked to an expert in their field, they want to answer your questions. They want to talk to you about it. They want to share what the nuances. I've never met an expert that doesn't want to talk about their field. So just the idea that there's this conspiracy and they're hiding the information from us and these peer-reviewed journals are all made of... I think that's just a whole lot of noise. I mean, y'all just haven't sat down and talked to an expert. I'm telling you right now, the nerds are out there and they want to tell you their information. I promise. Just go talk to them. I'm one of them. We want to talk to you.
Exactly. You these people who think they do research on their phone, and they want to tell you about whatever research, whatever medical research they think that they know the key to. But, Dr. Fauci, who spent his entire life in immunology, doesn't know what he's talking about.
It's hubris. We
Absolutely.
Just because we can talk about it, we think we're experts. And, I'm not innocent of that. Throughout the years, I'm sure I have read up on something and felt like I had too much information on this and then ran my mouth and it was proven wrong by a quick Google search. I'm sure that has happened to all of us. But That's not something I'm going to walk out on the campaign trail and say. Like I'm going to be if I'm talking about it any kind of authority, I'm going to make sure I'm backed up by experts. Like they publish peer reviewed research papers all the time. If you want to know, the information's there. Get it and read it, and you can be a smart. Like that's so. I go and I try to find whatever medical journals have been published, whatever the actual bill text says, or whatever it is, because the information's there. We can't think we know better than the information that we have in front of us just because it goes against what our confirmation bias wants to see.
After talking about just the Republican policy and the ideological, if not political differences and the divisiveness between the parties and the belief systems, you are going to have to reach across that aisle and work with Republicans. So how do you envision that happening? And what are your qualifications, background, experience, personality that you think enables you to be successful at that?
Well, first and foremost, I would hope that funding education, healthcare, would be fairly bipartisan. I'm not sure. I haven't really met people that disagree with that. So, I'm going to hope that the people in Frankfurt are going to be cooperative with that. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to prioritize making sure that we're healthy and educated before investing in private economic development. But I think the thing that might be controversial, I think the thing that might require or will require some working across the aisle is I think Kentucky can have a really strong recreational cannabis industry. I have seen what states like Michigan, Colorado, and Ohio have done with their recreational industries, both good and bad. And it's a lot of money that Kentucky's left lying around. There is hundreds of millions of dollars a year in tax revenue that we could be using to further fund these issues. And I know that still can be a fairly partisan issue. Like we've only just recently got medical cannabis in the state, but I'm hoping that when we do sit down and we do begin talking about how to implement this entirely new industry into the state, that I will be able to sit down across the Republicans, find a common ground, whether it is in the potential for the economic development for the farmers and the retail, whether it is sitting down to talk about what we could do to make the farming sustainable and protect our environment through it. I would hope that I can find a common ground through something that benefits Kentucky. And then that's the end. That's you got to start with there. You got to be willing to negotiate. You got to be willing to go back and forth. And, sometimes you have to stand on what you believe is the non-negotiables. It's one thing to negotiate on maybe a tax rate or, a percentage of where this funding is going to go where. I don't think that the question of fully funding this stuff should be a question. I don't think human rights should be a question. And those are things that I'm not going to flex on. But again, I'm here to do what's best for the community. And if the community says XYZ is best for us, well, it doesn't matter what my opinion is. It's my job to go get XYZ done for the community. And I really hope that the folks in Frankfurt have that mindset. And if not, I guess I'm just going to have to yell at them until they get in line.
Well, there's always that.
Yeah, but it's true. When you break it down into, we just want healthcare, human rights, and education, and you
It's
have
that
the
simple,
supermajority just pushing against it. And at the end of the day, healthcare for all is an economic principle that helps business. As you said earlier, when businesses don't have to find a way to provide healthcare for their employees, then that's an economic boom for them.
And I think spreading healthcare to everybody, it doesn't have to necessarily be just one big bill, one big signing. All right, everyone has healthcare. I think we could do it incrementally with the levers of governance we already have. Medicaid, for example. Medicaid it's federally funded, but it is ran by the states. Kentucky can expand Medicaid eligibility to cover every single child in Kentucky from 0 to 18. step number one. We make sure the children are healthy. I don't know many people that would tell me that's a bad idea. If they're around, I'm sure I'll meet them in Frankfurt. But we're that's just a step. That's just something that I was able to sit down and think about, and that's simply expanding eligibility. My wife works for the county government across the river, Hamilton County, and she works for their Jobs and Family Services. She works for workforce development. And I can tell you right now, it's the requirements, the hoops, it's not set up to have people succeed. It's truly not. And the federal requirements are federal requirements, but guess what? The states can go above and beyond. We can have a better system than what the federal government mandates. And I think it's frankly bad leadership to not be working towards that every single session. Again, I fully support economic development, sustainable economic development after we fund our education and our healthcare.
It sounds good. Sounds like you got your priorities in order. We love it.
Well, we got to hear a lot about your platform, a lot about you, what you would do. And we like to end things on a positive note with a little lightning round to get to know you just a little bit better, if you're up for that.
Let's do it. I'm sitting right here.
All righty. Sound good. Let's put you through the lightning round. Okay, first question. I know you like to wear Hawaiian shirts, flowery shirts, so I may know the answer to this already, but if you had to spend 1 week alone with no phone, would you want it to be on the beach or in the mountains?
Surprisingly enough, it would be in the mountains. I was born right outside of Boone, North Carolina. I grew up in the hills of northern Kentucky. If you put me in a cabin in the middle of the mountains, and I'm going to be a happy camper. That being said, I love getting sunburnt on the beach too.
Yes. Pros and cons to both. And we talked a lot about how beautiful Kentucky is, and we have so many beautiful places right here in northern Kentucky. What's your favorite park?
Now that's a hard question, honestly. Because we do. This time I'm going to specifically pick a park that is in my district. I got to do some of the politic and stuff, but I'm going to say I grew up spending a lot of time at the Alexandria Community Park. It's a really, really beautiful area. If y'all haven't been down there, it's a really nice little lake with a track that goes around it. You can go and fish. They have a couple of playgrounds, and it's just somewhere I spent a ton of time as a kid. Running around and enjoying it. So definitely the Alexandria Community Park has a special place in my heart.
I will have to check that out.
Yeah,
I lived in northern Kentucky my entire life before I knew Doe Run existed until now. So yeah,
it's amazing the secrets we hold in this place, and that's why I tell people get out and get to know your community. I did not. I thought I knew the community, but my eyes have been opened so much more. And man, I like northern Kentucky a lot more than I did.
Wow, it's great.
This may be a really controversial one for our listeners for you to answer, but who makes the better pet, a cat or a dog?
Oh man, making me pick. So we have cats, just because we're cat people. But my mom has 5 senior rescue dogs that I dearly love. And actually, when we're done with this interview, I'm driving down to go have dinner with her and them. So, cats for me, but it depends on your living situation. And, they're both wonderful, perfect creatures.
Anybody who fosters or takes on and adopts or rescues senior animals is just a beautiful thing.
I'll give them a quick. Frankie's Furry Friends is the nonprofit she works with. They actually do a senior to senior adoption program that picks up the medical bills. So if anyone out there, any seniors are wanting to adopt a senior dog, there's a great rescue out there that's doing work in our community right now.
Yeah, my mom did that for 40 or 50 years down in Dallas, Texas. She lived down there, worked for the SPCA, and then eventually got a little disillusioned with that organization and started working specifically for rescue organizations. And she had probably 40 or 50 rescues over her lifespan. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Very special people who take that responsibility on and give their love to a rescue animal.
Yeah, my mom's a good one, that's for sure.
I would cry every single day. That's my problem.
I don't know how she does it, man. They take such good care. They love them so much, but as soon as they find them at home, they're like, "Oh, peace and quiet." And I'm just.
Well, we'll jump over to the music scene. If you all of a sudden were the official DJ of Kentucky for one day, what's the first song you'd play?
Oh, I wouldn't subject the state to my weird music taste. I would let my wife take over. She's the real DJ. She's the one that that really knows all the good music. I'll just kind of listen to what she puts on, and then when I'm choosing the station, it's honestly usually some intro from the anime that I'm watching. I'm that kind of nerd.
Love it. I love it. All right, and what's one skill that you have that would surprise most voters?
Yeah, I don't really have the vibe of it on the campaign trail, but my favorite hobby is going out to the shooting range. I absolutely love my HK VP9 SK pistol. I built my M4 rifle from the ground up. I have a Ruger 308 that I can take out, and yeah, that's I'm pretty Kentuckian when it comes to that part. I do absolutely love to get out there and smell gunpowder, and if you've never been to the wildlife management areas, a lot of them will have shooting ranges, and they just recently started charging. It was free to access, but I think that they needed some extra funding because the state didn't give them enough, so now they're charging for their lanes.
Do you skeet shoot?
I've been skeet shooting before. I don't have the proper equipment set up for it. Most skeet ranges in the area are private clubs, and it doesn't really work for my vibe,
Well, there you go. Thanks for playing along.
Yeah,
hey
that's
guys,
gonna be
thanks
a good.
for having me. This is a really fun conversation.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Josh. And before you go, let all of our listeners and viewers know how they can get involved with your campaign and where they can find you.
Find us on our socials. We try to be really, really active on that. And if you want to volunteer, you can reach out directly to us, fill out the form. We'll gladly take you. And again, this campaign is entirely volunteer ran. There's not a single paid person on this. So any creative expertise, any skills, my sister's my social media manager. If you have time, if you have effort, we're going to have you. If you don't have time and you don't have to go with us, I'll take your donation, but I'll take volunteers first.
And your newsletter.
Sounds good.
You got the newsletter.
Yeah, so we just put out a newsletter. It's got quotes from the campaign. I had all of our campaign committee folks put something in it, and it is 100% human made. None of us use any kind of AI. It's not that, I'm necessarily anti-AI. I think it's just a flex nowadays to be able to say 100% human made.
That's great. Yeah, I saw you put out that newsletter. I was like, that is such good information. You got it out there. And again, you're just communicating with the people. It's what we got to do.
It's the public office. It's the job. Like if you're not in the public face, if you're not with them, as soon as I signed up, I knew I kind of gave up my private life. I am a public facing figure, and my job is to be the best facing public figure I can.
Bravo.
Well, we appreciate, and I'm sure everybody out there at your meeting on the campaign trail appreciates how seriously you're taking it, and that you are really, hitting the pavement and, putting your money where your mouth is in terms of getting out and understanding the people you may represent in the State House. So thanks for doing that, Josh.
Thanks, y'all. I'm just a person for the people trying to make change for all of us.
Fantastic.
10-4.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, y'all. You have a great one.
And that's it for this candidate interview. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming podcasts or exclusive material. And don't forget, you can join the conversation at our Facebook and Instagram pages or at blue.podcast.com. Till next time, stay curious, keep the facts in focus, never stop fighting for what matters. Peace out, everybody.